Welcome to the Black Health and Wellness Virtual Summit. My name is Dr. Emelda Phillip, and I am going to be presenting on stress, burnout, and wellness, the journey to recovery. So, just to give a quick little background about myself, I am a licensed psychotherapist with over 15 years of work experience within the mental health and professional field. My company, Emelda's Therapeutic Center for Women, an affiliate company of Dr. E's Wellness Services, LLC, we specialize in women and women of color. And so today's presentation, at the conclusion of this webinar, we will understand the aspects of chronic stress, identify signs and symptoms of burnout, explore the wellness model, identify and develop strength-based practices and coping strategies on the road to recovery. So this title here, Stress and the Superwoman Schema of Women in African Descent. This was my doctoral dissertation. So this kind of started the research work that I'm currently kind of doing now. It started, I did that dissertation in 2016, and what it looked at pretty much was the stress-related factors and the health crisis and the superwoman schema of women of African descent. And for those who may not be familiar with what the superwoman schema is, it is a phenomenon. It is an ideation that revolves around the perceived obligation to project strength, to suppress emotions, to resist being vulnerable, to prioritize caregiving over self-care, to succeed despite limited resources. So basically always feeling like you always have to be strong, always have to kind of wear that cape. And the research here, it kind of, again, it looks at just the diaspora, the Black diaspora of Afro-Caribbean, Afro-American, Afro-Latino women and their stories. And so the SCAGS 2012 reported that women of African descent, WOD, are more vulnerable to experiencing stress from a variety of social conditions compared to their white counterparts. And so the findings of my research supported our first hypothesis that higher chronic levels of stress were correlated with poorer health outcomes in women of African descent, or WOD. And so what is chronic stress? So there's different types of stress. We have acute stress, we have episodic stress, but what we're going to be focusing on today is the chronic stress. So acute stress is more of that your imminent reaction, your body's imminent reaction to something of some type of situation. Episodic stress really is kind of those episodes of constant acute stress. But what we're looking at today here is chronic stress. So what is chronic stress? Well, according to Yale Medicine, chronic stress is a consistent sense of feeling pressured and overwhelmed over a long period of time. So it's kind of like that wear and tear. Right. So I want you to think about that constant wear and tear, that grinding, that everyday pushing for years, that wear and tear for long periods of time. So that is what kind of chronic stress is. What are some signs of chronic stress? Well, for one, stress can be manifested physically, cognitively, emotionally, and behaviorally. Too much stress can cause anxiety, anger, mood swings, physical ailments, headaches, fatigues, frequent colds, often being able to get sick, weaken your immune system, weight gain, problems concentrating, forgetfulness, low self-esteem, sadness, and loneliness. Again, it can weaken your immune system and present cardiovascular diseases. And so just to kind of briefly explain to you our body's stress response. So when we are faced with a threatening situation, whether we come in contact with a bear or a robber, our bodies release this, we go through this sympathetic nervous system activation, and our bodies release the main stress hormone, cortisol, epinephrine, or norepinephrine. This enables us to either fight, flight, which is run, or freeze, where we become immobilized. Our heart rate increases, our blood pressure increases, and our body goes through a series of physiological responses. Now, when the threat is gone, our bodies are supposed to return back to a homeostasis status. So our parasympathetic nervous system becomes activated. But what happens is when we're constantly dealing with everyday stressors, poverty, work demands, life problems, relationship issues, both externally, or we're dealing with internal concerns such as overthinking, overanalyzing, worrying, negative self-talk, then our bodies go back into that sympathetic nervous system that begins to activate, and our bodies never get an opportunity for that stress to kind of go away. Neither do the chemicals. The chemicals still continues to get released. And so I like to say that our parasympathetic nervous system kind of end up becoming malfunction. So in a 2022 survey, 80% of Americans have reported being stressed due to cost of living, due to relationship concerns, the state of healthcare and education, personal relationships, again, trying to also work on self-defeating thinking. So here, the picture might be a little fuzzy, but in terms of these is the effects of stress on our bodies. So things such as headaches, increased depression, insomnia, rapid breathing, heartburn, high elevated blood pressure, elevated blood sugar, um, fertility issues, low sex drive, erectile dysfunction, pounding heart, just a host of different physiological concerns that happens within the body when our body is under enormous amounts of stress. What causes chronic stress? Well, again, it can be everyday stressors, poverty, finances, worrying, sometimes having underlying mental health concerns, which it can also perpetuate mental health concerns and health concerns. Sometimes complicated grief when a person really haven't had an opportunity to process different losses in their lives. A person's psychological limited resource. So being unable to cope with different stressors, being able to adapt with changes, a person's environment, as well as some demands, physical and personal demands that people have on themselves. So stress versus burnout. Well, this is a stress curve here. And if we can see that too little stress, it doesn't really, it doesn't really give us in terms of best performance. We're kind of laid back. We're not really giving our best. Optimum stress, there is going to be a little bit of fatigue, but we have in terms of some better performance, but then it quickly can become into exhaustion. And that's when there's an overload. And then we start to get into what I call the red zone. The red zone is when things start to break down. We're experiencing anxiety, panic, anger, and that's when we start to get into burnout. So what is burnout? Well, I want you to think of it again as the red zone. This is the elevated state of being in chronic stress. So remember, chronic stress is kind of long standing. So burnout is even longer, dealing with constant chronic stresses for over long periods of time. Some stress is helpful. It gets us motivated to do things in terms of our performance, but too much stress is damaging. It's damaging to our mind, our body, our spirit, and our soul. It's kind of like when we're on that last 5%. of our cell phone, and it begins to kind of give the indication, a red zone, that something is not right, that you needs to be recharged. And so, and it doesn't care if you're on the phone, if you're on a business call, things will begin to start to shut down if it's not recharged. And so, kind of just as with this last match is lit, being able to know that I'm on a critical zone right now. I'm in the red zone and I need to be recharged. And that is what burnout is. I wanted to quickly read to you from the journal book that I created, Burnout in Black Christian Women, a guided wellness journal. And it says, Tiana Clark shared in her 2019 article, "This is what Black burnout feels like. No matter the movement or the era, being burnt out has been the steady state of Black people in America for hundreds of years." So, what is burnout? According to Psychology Today, burnout is a state of mental, emotional, and physical exhaustion due to chronic and prolonged stress. Burnout is a psychological syndrome emerging as a prolonged response to chronic interpersonal stressors on the job. Now, some of the definitions and the signs and symptoms will kind of be more tailored towards work relations, but it can be applied in other areas. So again, think of it as being in the red zone. According to this study, 34% of women have reported feeling burnt out versus 26% of men have felt burnt out. So, what's kind of the difference between stress and burnout? Again, stress can make you feel pressured to accomplish things. So you still get that desire to push and get things done, but burnout, there's no longer a sense of urgency, but instead of hopelessness. So in the chart here, it just kind of distinguished between stress and burnout. So we have from characterizes by over engagement, whereas burnout characterizes by disengagement. Stress emotions are overreactive, whereas burnout emotions become blunted. We have loss of energy for stress, and we have loss of motivation and ideas and hopes for burnout. The last one says it may kill you prematurely, whereas burnout may make you feel like life is not worth living. And so, again, it is very critical. So, what are some types of burnout? We have overload burnout, where when you continue to work constantly at a pace without taking any breaks, without taking any mental breaks. I will also include physical breaks. Under challenge burned out, when you're not being stimulated. There's a lack of motivation that develops. And then also neglect, when you don't feel a sense of purpose in what you do and feel engaged in the job that you have. In the guided journal, it also looks at different other types of burnouts: community burnout, compassion fatigue, if you're in the helping profession, if you're in any kind of ministry burnout, parental burnout. So there's other types of burnout that can definitely occur. So what are some signs and symptoms? SOS, please, someone help, right? Physical symptoms include exhaustion. You're going to feel tired all the time. You may hear, especially within the Black community, I'm tired. I know I used to say it, I'm tired, right? And that tiredness is more than just, I didn't get much sleep. This tiredness has been constant stressors, dealing with situations back to back, for long periods of time. So exhaustion, headaches, muscle aches. So a lot of physiological concerns, a negative attitude about your work, but also just about life. Feeling like everything is overwhelming. Everything takes effort just to do the smallest task. It takes so much effort, neglecting your own needs, withdrawing from new responsibilities and challenges, procrastinating, um, being short tempered, especially with colleagues and with others within your home. Difficulty sticking to a regular self care. Some people tend to negate on different hygienic responsibilities. Just having a really difficult and challenging time to just function on a day to day basis. So, these are some of the signs and symptoms of burnout. So I want to take a minute, what I call a mindfulness minute, where we just kind of, a lot was said, especially a lot of heavy information as relates to just stress and burnout. Maybe you can relate. But this is a moment where you can just reflect. When I think of and I see this water and I see the luscious trees, I think of a refreshing. I think of when someone is burnt out, there's a lot of decay. There's a lot of just decay and just being so burnt out. And a refreshing is usually needed. And so take this opportunity to just this mindfulness moment so that you can be refreshed going forward as we look into what does the journey looks up ahead. There is hope. Just know that there is hope. So the pathway to recovery and healing, okay? Know that it's a journey. Okay, don't be so focused on the destination, but more on the process. So it is a journey. It's an ever journey that we're all going through. So we're going to look at wellness, but I first want you to think about, what is wellness? And what does wellness mean to me? So take a second or two just to think about, what is wellness? And what does wellness mean to me? Well, according to the National Wellness Institute, wellness is an active process through which people become aware of and make choices toward a more successful existence. Wellness is the conscious development of the whole self. So it's a journey, right? And so wellness is active, right? I like to say wellness is alive, right? It's conscious, it's intentional. And so making sure that every area in your life, and we'll look at the different domains, every area is functioning, that you're conscious about and intentional about each and every area of your life. What are some components of wellness? Well, again, wellness is conscious, it's self-directive, it's evolving, it's multidimensional, it's holistic, it's positive, it's affirming. But again, it's more than just being free from an illness. It is a dynamic process of change and growth. So each area of the wellness of each area of your life should be changing, should be growing. So as you can see here, the wellness wheel. That is kind of like the traditional wheel, looking at the different domains. But then I also stumbled upon a well-being wheel. So it not only looks as you as an individual in terms of your identity and wellness, but also looking at the communities that you belong to. So these are the different domains: environmental, emotional, mental as well, financial, intellectual, occupational, physical, social, and spiritual. So you can see kind of the descriptions of each of the domains, but these are the different domains. So each area, our emotional health, our environmental health, our financial health, our social and spiritual, are all important. Wellness versus well-being. Well, wellness, again, is an active process that helps individuals reach their optimal well-being. But well-being is an optimal and dynamic state that allows people to achieve their full potential. So again, both individually, but also the communities that they are connected to. So it's so essential to be connected to a community. Having good support system is essential on your road to, we all can't do it by ourselves. And so having a community is essential on our road to recovery. So I developed a term called the 5 R's of the 21st century: refresh, repair, reboot, relaxation, and resilience. So I'm going to quickly read some research. Refresh, which is for nutrition. So in a 2023 article from Harvard Medical School, it reported that good nutrition is essential for our bodies. It helps fuel and supply the nutrients that we need for our brain, our muscles, our nervous system, our blood circulation, and our immune support. Proper nutrition also helps protect us from illnesses and diseases such as heart disease, cancer, osteoporosis, and diabetes. They recommended a more plant-based diet, such as like a Mediterranean diet, but proper nutrition is essential. Repair. Repair is exercise. A recent study that came out in Amsterdam compared the effects of antidepressants and running. So what they found was that running and medication was provided the same benefit for mental health concerns. Both interventions were just as effective, and so that is very, that's very good to hear that having an active life can be just as effective as taking medication. Reboot is sleep. We need proper sleep. In an article from the National Heart and Lung and Blood Institute says that sleep plays an intricate part in our role for good health and well-being. During sleep, our bodies allows us to support healthy brain function and maintain physical health. Relaxation. Relaxation allows us to just be still, allows us to be mindful, not exert any force, any energy, but just allows us to be. And we're going to look a little more into holistic wellness resilience. So these are just some pictures and some photos of proper nutrition, being able to keep an active lifestyle, and as well as some good sleep. Little man over there is definitely getting some sleep. So resilience. Resilience is that ability to really bounce back more quickly and without less stress than someone whose resilience is less developed. And so being able to have that ability that when these stressors come, when these situations come, being able to have that resilience to be able to bounce back. And I want you to take a minute of thinking about, who is your resilience role model? Who are those people in your life that demonstrated what resilience looked like for you? So I want you to think about that. Quickly, we're going to look at some ways to increase your resilience. So you have to have a positive view of yourself. Your self-image plays a huge, important role in your health and well-being. How you see yourself is how you're going to demonstrate in terms of your life. Being able to know your strengths and your abilities, being able to regularly make realistic plans and carry them out, being able to be effective in a healthy manner to manage your feelings and your impulses. So these are just some wellness tips for overcoming burnout. You want to take some smaller breaks throughout the day. Practice mindfulness. And mindfulness, again, is just about being conscious, being intentional, being in the here and the now. Eating healthy and eating mindfully. Engaging in physical exercise. If you're under severe amounts of burnout, you may not be able to do anything high impact, but low intensity workout is just as helpful. taking time to rest, go on a vacation or a staycation, setting some healthy boundaries, providing yourself with validation, and acknowledging that something is not right. Also, you want to change your scenery. Avoid mood altering drugs and alcohol. Engage in spiritual practices. If you have your spiritual beliefs in prayer or inspirational reading, scripture reading, so that your spirit man can be filled. Practice saying no. Guard your entry points, such as your heart and your mind. And those come from what you see and what you hear. So this is from Lisa Cole, who is a breastfeeding counselor at Mary Center, who mentioned and talked about what Black health and wellness means, and having that unified community that listens and cares and advocates for those who are definitely least resourced. So what does the road to recovery looks like? Well, just know it is a journey. Do not be so caught up on the destination. The expectations of, I thought I'll be here by now. I thought things would be better for me. But it's the process. It's the process. And so understanding it is a journey. We are all on a journey, and being able to fully embrace it. Knowing that everything that we talked about, from wellness, the 5 R's, okay, but awareness, being accepting who you are, and accepting just, where you are in your life's journey, being intentional, wellness, engaging in wellness and well-being living, being open-minded, being rooted and connected. You have to stay connected. You have to find your village. Being rooted and connecting, making sure that every area of your life is flourishing. There's a saying that you can you can be high in financial health, but low in spiritual health, or you can be high in social health, but your emotionality can be low. So each and every area needs to grow. Each and every area of the wellness domain in your life needs to flourish. Feeding your soul and your spirit. Those are essential. You want to feed your body. You want to feed your mind. You want to feed your spirit. You want to feed your soul. Again, remembering the 5 R's. You want to refresh. You want to reboot. Okay. You want to have resilience. You want those essential things. You want to relax. Not everything has to be in a rush. And again, you want to live from within, not from without. So I want to take a minute to just highlight some what I call Dr. E's Wellness Corner, some journal books that I have recently published within the past 2 years or so. The most recent is the Daily Gratitude Journal. The top 3 journals are guided journals, and then the last 3 are more open, freestanding. But a lot of the information and what kind of inspired for this talk is an extenuating continuation from the Burnout in Black Christian Women, a guided wellness journal. So I want to take this opportunity just to say thank you so much, and may you have such a blessed rest of your day.